Well, hello, I'm Dr. Lemmon again, and this is just a little short introduction to my blog for September. I've been blogging for quite a few years, I think all the way back to 2002, maybe. It is kind of interesting. In the beginning, I used to do a lot of talks and used to do talks once a month, workshops pretty much the other weekends that I didn't do the talk once a month. And when we closed that particular facility down, then I actually started doing kind of a blog that was originally on my original website that basically covered the topics that were relevant to the organization at the time, maybe a little bit of my thoughts, and then why I'm doing what I'm doing. And that's what started it. And then when I closed the other centers and actually quit teaching and just went on the road and started doing some lectures in various different places in the United States, I just started going ahead and making it kind of the thoughts in my head. At first, it was just kind of whatever I was reading or whatever interaction was with people at the time. I do a talk in Kansas, I do a talk in Chicago, I do a talk somewhere in one of the southern states. I'd be somewhere doing a talk, sometimes in Arizona, sometimes Nevada, sometimes in Oregon. Wherever that was, then I would use some of those experiences from the talk and interact a little bit with it. And then eventually I just would pick a theme for a year. I found that if I pick a theme for a year, I don't know if it benefited you, but it benefited me. If I pick a theme for a year, all of a sudden I had like a range that I was playing in for the whole year. And then I would find that I was reading more and more books that gave me diversion within that range. So that was the context of my growth that were coming into play. And I still talk to people. I'm a lot more selective who I talk to today. But most certainly I talk to people still and have good questions from people that have had experience and out there in the world paying attention. And so those start to weave into my theme. So if I answer a question in 2011, the same question in 2012 would have a little different variation on the answer. That this is not, when we start to look at the reason this is not hard science, really hard science is kind of a vague thing. But anyway, hard science, mathematics is probably only true hard science. In other words, in mathematics, something's a theory until you have a proof. And you have a mathematical proof, then all of a sudden that's now a statement of the structure that we live in. But the rest of science, medicine, physics and stuff, they can play off of a theory forever, because especially in a lot of the theatrical physics, in other words, the universe at large, we're never going to come up with a confirmed answer. So they play off of theories. So when they say it's the science, it doesn't mean, unless they're talking mathematics and an actual proof, it just means that it's accepted theory, based on accepted theory for the time. So you kind of lose the idea, I think, when we move forward, that what is absolutely certain is really a little vague. So in this particular blog, I talk about uncertainty because when I started out, I talked about the evolutionary mandate because that's the way my thinking is. This is an evolutionary mandate because it's affecting the background. My background is just a video feed, right? So it is just a picture, right? But nonetheless, I could change the backgrounds. So literally in an evolutionary time, the background changes, climate changes, blah, 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 all those things in the background, political ideas, religious morals, ethics, concepts, all that stuff in the background falls apart. It's not the idea of you that's falling apart. It's the idea of everything around you. So that's why I called it an evolutionary mandate, but we could just call it uncertain times. I know my personal experience when I'm doing a test, multiple choice test, I get to something, I'm looking at it and I have no idea. I have no clue. And it's A, B, C, D, E. It's just like, what the heck? I just pick one. If I'm really on top of it, I'll have a little note scrap sheet over there and I'll write the number of that problem. And then I'll just move on because it's always timed. So you can't spend a half an hour trying to figure out somewhere in the reaches of your experience. If you got an answer for that, life has a clock. you've noticed that, right? Some people wear one on a watch, yeah, on their wrist, but whether you wear one or not, it's still affecting you. You know, it's more probably costly with parking meters than anything else. I had to buy a watch when I moved to San Francisco because parking meters are very expensive there, and the tickets are even more expensive. And I used to get 20 tickets a year, so it was worth buying a watch for. So I could run back and put money in the meter. So it's just uncertainty we handle in a certain sort of way. We figure something out or we don't figure it out. And we don't figure it out, we just pick something and move on. That's what we do. We just move on. When you get to this level of uncertainty, and we've done this on the planet before many, many times, the reason you and I don't remember it, even I don't remember it because I'm older than you probably, but the reason you and I don't remember it is because of the fact that it happens over hundreds and hundreds of years. We don't remember it. I talk to young people today, and I could say something like 2 bits, and they would go, huh? And they don't know where that term came from. But 2 bits had a meaning when I was a kid because they'd give me 2 bits to go get a haircut because that's what a haircut costs. 2 bits. That's a quarter. Comes from a piece of 8. So that's 2/8 or 1/4 of a coin. So that's just where it came from. The piece of 8s was actually a coin that you could break. It had grooves in it. So somebody was smart. How they made change was they would take a coin and break it into pieces, and you would just get pieces of it. Yeah. Eventually, I'm sure the mint had all these pieces, came back in, they had to smelt them, melt them, and make new coins, I would imagine. And, you know, now we're moving in the direction of having it all on a credit card. So we'd have to depend on this automatic machine, which is, you know, scary. But then the uncertain times was, what did you do with 11,000 pieces of bits of pieces of 8s if you saved it in a cookie jar or what? I mean, eventually you'd have to take it somewhere to trade it in for whole coins, or just give people a whole bag full of. Yes, you have traveled. I have traveled many times to a world where I've given them American dollar, and the change would come back, and I would have this whole conglomerate of change. I needed a bag to carry it in. They actually had small bills in China the first time I went there. It's different today, but first time I went there, that was less than a cent. It was just, I had a whole bunch of them in my pocket because they kept giving me change everywhere, and I had all this in it. So finally I went in, I laid them on the counter and said, what can I buy from this? Like a kid in a candy store. And I got a pack of a chewing gum, which was, as far as I could figure it, equivalent in an American was 18 cents for a pack of Wrigley's Juicy Fruit chewing gum. I bought a pack of Spearmint, actually is what I bought, but it was Wrigley's Spearmint chewing gum, and it came up to an equivalent of 18 cents. So I got rid of all that money before I got on an airplane, and I didn't want to bring it home. What was I going to do with it here? All those are elements of uncertainty. You see that these are really small things that we can deal with. When it gets to be really big, and especially when it gets to be this background, it gets a little more complex. So in this blog, I'm saying just treat it like any other uncertainty you deal with. As a matter of fact, people do. And as you read the blog, you'll see how people just make a decision and move on. It's like big decisions that we should think about. They kind of just like want to get it out of the way. It's really kind of silly. Some people have a harder time with it than others. That's always like everything in life. We're a mixed bag of things. We've got some really strong skills and some really weak skills because that's what makes it interesting. That's wholeness is all of us working together. So the whole game, as far as I can get it, in this 3/4 of a century I've been playing here, is to be able to get people to work together more. You're going to, everybody came together on the same page, we'd have a wholeness. Everybody runs to a pole and we have a war, because the difference fills a gap. That's a big hole in the center. You need to be in the center somewhere where you can look both ways and go, oh my goodness, you know. So that my habits of life have changed. All of us do. But my habits of life, some of them have changed because of age. Uh, I would like to get more all my life. I had always wanted to get more exercise, but usually I would start to participate in a sport. That was a good way to get exercise. But then along with sports came a lot of competition. I didn't particularly like the competition energy. I wasn't doing it to beat someone. I was doing it to get exercise. So when the competition came in, I thought, wow, I don't feel comfortable being in a competition. It's like, I don't see where winning is a big deal. So I used to race motorcycles, and I really liked the camaraderie. Sitting around the campfire the night before the big race was just fun when I first started. And then we'd go out and race, and we'd fall down and we'd get hurt, and all that stuff would go on. And I don't know if I ever won anything or lost anything. It was just a crazy fun weekend. It was a lot of fun. And then later on, as I got too old in the sport, later on as I was doing it, we'd get out there and all of a sudden the campfire was gone and all these young guys were just getting stoned. And we had at 8 o'clock in the morning, we were racing and they're out there smoking dope. And I'm sitting there drinking coffee going, well, this is not fun anymore. I miss all these conversations. I miss this interaction. Everybody's over in their little camp with their buddies and they're working on the bikes and they're smoking dope. And it's like, I don't have a problem with what they're doing. It's just kind of like that doesn't fill the gap for me. So it's like, interesting. So then I get out there, and by the end of the day, I've got bruises and my arms and back's hurting. I've been run over a couple of times, and it's like, this is no longer. There's no value. There's no value from interaction, from sharing the experience. There's no value anymore. The people that won are all excited. The people that lost are just go out and lick their wounds. And here I am. I used to feel pretty good leaving, and now I'm just sitting here saying, why am I doing this? So I just sold everything and found another sport to go into. It's like, it just uncertainty comes up and it moves us forward. That's what I'm saying. It has a function. It moves us forward. We move into something we can be a little more certain in, that we can find a sense of value in it. Certain means I know why I'm doing this. I get it. I see the value in it. Let's kind of go with this. Let's make something happen. To understand it, kind of like you want to paint a wall because it's looking dull, clean it, sand it, paint it. That makes a whole lot of sense, right? I can be very certain about those kind of things. I can see the need for something. If something breaks, I can get certain about, like, this is how you fix it, and I can work on it. Those are levels of developing certainty in every aspect in your life, in friendships, in relationships, in job functions. And I can see why people don't even want to keep a job today. Unemployment is just like, I can't find, I don't ever go anywhere where they're not short of help. Yes, part of that is that they're short of funds because the whole economy was shut down for a while. And that's really sad. But the other part of it is that people don't want to work. They don't want to come in. Eventually, they'll get to a point. They're like me with a motorcycle race. They've just become uncertain with it. No longer has a value, and they walk away from it. Necessity will drive it eventually. Yes, it most certainly will. It takes time. And this whole process is a time element. Gosh, you guys, you need to be able to look at this. You need to have some fun with this. You need to figure some way around it. So I'm just advocating building a range. It gives you some diversity. With diversity, I should have quit motorcycle racing a long time before I did at BMX. I should have. And if I would have had another option in front of me, I would have done that. But I was so wrapped up in it when I actually quit. I found, oh my goodness, there's a lot of things. I bought a bicycle. I bought diving gear. I started about 3 or 4 different hobbies. All of a sudden, just unfolded in front of me. And then I have a whole new collection of friends and a lot of dialogue coming into play. I didn't really miss all the old stuff that I was doing. And, and it just took me about a year to dump all the scraps and pieces and souvenirs and trophies and all that. I just all threw that on the trash. It's like, and it's move on. Let's move on. And so that's what this whole process is telling you. We need to move on. Gosh, let go of what you've been hanging on to and move forward. So this is just looking at kind of summing up range. Next month, I'll probably talk about the little bit of exercise I made available. Some people have played on it to be able to go a little deeper and get some patterns that actually kind of drive us into uncertainty. Makes it difficult for us to look at certain things if there's a taboo on it. When I say a taboo, it's not like something that's top secret, or the papers might be in your closet or vault, or something that's just sexual in context, whatever. But a taboo just means that you have had some experience with things that have been a little scary, right? I mean, I raised snakes, had snakes for pets, but an awful lot of people would come to see me. They'd go, "Ooh, a snake. Ooh, how can you stand those?" Well, actually, they don't make a lot of noise. They're not really much of a problem. I was gifted one, so then I got a couple more, and then finally I decided, I get this. I'll just give some of them away. And then I gave a few away, and then all of a sudden I found people said, I would have bought it had I known I like to get a pet. So then the light went on and I sold mine, and that way I could get all those dead mice out of my freezer and move on in life with a different project. You see how this change occurs? That was just a range. I was just playing in a range. I got excited because I met some people that had some, and I could see some fun with it. And I have a lot of stories about it for, I don't know, maybe a year, and then moved on. It's like, gosh, always we have to move on. Always we have to move places. We can't stay, and I'm certain with this, I'm an expert at this, for very long, because the background develops complexity. It gets more pieces. An expert becomes yesterday's news really fast. All right. On that note, have fun with the blog. Any questions come up, please. Chris@wizardscatch.com. If you're reading the blog, you found Wizards Catch, just take Chris with 2 S's at wizardscatch.com. Send me your questions, and I will answer some questions either by calling you or emailing you, or I'll do a video on it. And I'm going to do one today on the patterns that we've been playing, the unconscious patterns that we've been playing with. So you'll look for that coming up into posting probably around the first of the month also. So thank you very much. And we'll talk to you next month.